Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. The world is vast, beautiful and diverse, full of wonders and cultures to explore. But it's not all sunshine and Instagram posts. Some regions face immense challenges, overshadowed by conflict and hardship. Today we'll discuss the most dangerous countries in the world. Our goal is to foster understanding, not fear. Danger is complex, beyond just war zones. It includes political instability, crime and humanitarian crises. We'll explore these complexities and their human impact. Let's understand the resilience of those living through these challenges. Watch with empathy and an open mind. This is about awareness and recognizing the realities many face. These places are home to millions with hopes and dreams. Let's get into it. Our first country is Syria. For over a decade, Syria has been synonymous with conflict. A nation with a rich history, now marked by war. The 2011 Arab Spring protests led to a brutal crackdown and civil war. Government forces, rebels and ISIS escalated the conflict. Ordinary Syrians faced unimaginable suffering and displacement. Global powers turned Syria into a proxy battlefield. Large-scale combat has diminished, but Syria remains unstable. Infrastructure is ruined, the economy shattered, and aid is crucial. Millions depend on aid, and psychological scars run deep. The path to peace and stability is long and arduous. Next, we turn to Afghanistan, a country that has endured conflict for much of the past 4 decades. The 2021 US withdrawal marked a dramatic turning point. The Taliban's return to power ushered in profound uncertainty. Rival extremist groups continue to launch attacks. The security situation remains a major concern. The takeover led to economic collapse and humanitarian crisis. Basic services are scarce and food insecurity is rampant. Afghanistan remains a dangerous country. The dreams of a stable Afghanistan feel distant. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, born in 2011 with such hope and international goodwill, is next on our list. The initial optimism that accompanied its independence from Sudan was tragically short-lived. Only 2 years later, political rivalries erupted into a devastating civil war. The war was characterized by extreme brutality, with widespread human rights abuses reported. Millions were forced to flee their homes, creating one of Africa's largest refugee crises. The scale of the humanitarian crisis in South Sudan is staggering and continues to worsen. Despite several peace agreements, the situation on the ground remains incredibly fragile and volatile. South Sudan remains one of the most dangerous countries due to persistent insecurity, deep-seated mistrust, and overwhelming humanitarian needs. The rule of law is virtually non-existent in many areas, leaving civilians vulnerable to predation. The immense challenge of building a nation from scratch has been tragically derailed by conflict. Yemen, a country at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, has been engulfed in a devastating conflict since 2014. The war escalated dramatically when Houthi rebels took control of the capital, prompting a military intervention by a Saudi-led coalition. What followed has been years of brutal warfare, creating what the United Nations has termed the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The conflict in Yemen is multifaceted, involving various local militias and factions. Civilians have borne the brunt of this violence, with thousands killed and many more dying from the indirect consequences of the war. The war has systematically destroyed Yemen's infrastructure, crippling the country's ability to provide basic services. The economy has collapsed, leading to soaring food prices and widespread unemployment. Millions of Yemenis are facing acute food insecurity, with many on the brink of famine. Yemen remains incredibly dangerous due to the active and often indiscriminate nature of the conflict. For millions of Yemenis, survival is a daily battle in a landscape scarred by war and deprivation. Iraq, a nation with a history stretching back to the dawn of civilization, has experienced decades of conflict and instability. The post-2003 era saw a descent into sectarian violence and the rise of insurgencies. The most notorious of these groups, ISIS, managed to seize control of vast swathes of Iraqi territory in 2014. Their brutal reign was characterized by mass atrocities and systematic human rights abuses. The fight to dislodge ISIS was long and bloody, involving various forces and international coalition airpower. While ISIS was declared territorially defeated in Iraq in late 2017, the threat of extremism has not been entirely eradicated. Remnants of the group continue to operate as an insurgency, carrying out sporadic attacks. Beyond the threat from ISIS remnants, Iraq faces other significant sources of instability, including political factionalism and deep divisions among various political blocs. Widespread corruption and the failure to deliver adequate public services have fueled large-scale popular protests. Iraq remains a dangerous country due to a combination of these factors, with the risk of terrorist attacks and political violence still present. Somalia, located in the Horn of Africa, has endured one of the longest periods of state collapse and protracted conflict in modern history. Since the overthrow of President Siad Barre's regime in 1991, the country plunged into chaos. For years, Somalia was the archetypal example of a failed state. One of the most well-known manifestations of Somalia's lawlessness was the surge in piracy off its extensive coastline. While international naval patrols have significantly reduced piracy incidents, the underlying conditions that allowed it to flourish remain a concern. A far more persistent and deadly threat within Somalia itself has been terrorism, primarily from the Al-Qaeda-affiliated group Al-Shabaab. Despite being pushed out of major urban centers, Al-Shabaab continues to control significant rural territories. The struggle to establish a stable and effective federal government in Somalia has been a long and arduous process. Somalia remains a highly dangerous country due to the potent threat posed by Al-Shabaab and the general weakness of rule of law institutions. For ordinary Somalis, navigating daily life involves contending with the threat of violence, extreme poverty, and environmental shocks. The Central African Republic, or CAR, is a landlocked nation in the heart of Africa. Despite its rich natural resources, it remains one of the poorest and most unstable countries. Conflict erupted in 2012 when the Salika rebels seized the capital. Christian militias known as Anti-Balaka responded, leading to sectarian violence. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced. Despite peace agreements and UN missions, conflict persists. Armed groups control much of the country. The lack of state authority makes CAR exceptionally dangerous. Armed groups commit human rights violations with impunity. The weak justice system fosters a culture of impunity. Life in CAR is a struggle for survival in a violent environment. Libya, a North African nation with vast oil reserves, has been in turmoil since the 2011 uprising that overthrew Colonel Gaddafi. The power vacuum was filled by competing militias formed along regional, tribal, or ideological lines. Libya split between rival administrations, fueling years of intense fighting. The conflict drew in external actors, entrenching divisions. Ordinary Libyans have suffered severe consequences. Lawlessness led to a surge in criminality, including kidnappings and human trafficking. The security situation remains precarious. Armed groups wield significant power, often with impunity. Libya's danger stems from deep fragmentation and unaccountable militias. Rebuilding state institutions and achieving reconciliation are monumental tasks. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, a vast country in Central Africa, is rich in natural resources like cobalt, copper, coltan, diamonds, and gold. Yet, it faces one of the world's most complex humanitarian crises. Decades of conflict in the eastern provinces stem from the Rwandan genocide and Congo wars. Numerous armed groups continue to operate, causing horrific violence. Civilians are routinely targeted and sexual violence is rampant. Millions are displaced, facing food insecurity and malnutrition. Despite peace efforts, the DRC remains dangerous, with millions living in fear. Our final country, Venezuela, presents a different type of danger. One rooted less in active armed conflict and more in a profound political and economic crisis. Once one of Latin America's wealthiest nations, Venezuela has experienced a catastrophic decline over the past decade. The crisis has deep political roots characterized by intense polarization between the government of President Nicolas Maduro and a fragmented opposition. The economic collapse has been staggering, with hyperinflation rendering the national currency virtually worthless. This has led to severe shortages of food, medicine, fuel, and other essential goods. Public services, including healthcare, electricity, and water, have deteriorated dramatically. The dire economic situation has had devastating consequences for public safety and security, with crime rates soaring in many urban areas. Informal armed groups, known as colectivos, sometimes act with impunity, and criminal gangs control territory in some neighborhoods. Venezuela is considered dangerous due to this toxic mix of political crisis, economic devastation, and social breakdown. The massive outflow of millions of Venezuelans seeking refuge is a stark testament to the severity of the crisis. So there you have it, a journey through 10 countries facing some of the most extreme challenges on our planet right now. Hearing about so much conflict, so much suffering, it can be overwhelming. It's easy to see these lists, these headlines, and just kind of mentally check out. But here's the thing, behind every single one of these statistics, there are people, real, living, breathing human beings with families, dreams, and inside jokes. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and understanding that the struggles for safety, dignity, and a decent life are universal. So what's the takeaway? We can choose to stay informed, support humanitarian groups, and advocate for policies that prioritize peace and human rights, because ultimately a safer, more stable world for them contributes to a safer, more stable world for all of us. It's something to think about, isn't it? Thanks for watching.